Hillary Clinton released a book called What Happened, where it still makes me laugh. Glenn Greenwald had a good tweet on that. He said, rarely do you get a book cover where you get the question and answer right away. Because it says, what happened? And then right under it says, Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's about right. She happened. So in the book, something that's been getting a lot of press is the fact that she basically blames Bernie Sanders for her election loss to Trump. Wow. So there's a lot to say about that, but some CNN hosts spoke about this. Let's watch, and then we'll break it down.
The new book that Hillary Clinton's about to release next week, some excerpts have been released, and she criticizes Bernie Sanders pretty significantly. Let me read a couple sentences. Throughout the primaries, every time I wanted to hit back against Bernie's attacks, I was told to restrain myself, noting that his plans didn't add up, that they would inevitably mean raising taxes on middle-class families, or that they were little more than a pipe dream. All of this could be used to reinforce his argument that I wasn't a true progressive. My team kept reminding me that we didn't want to alienate Bernie's supporters. President Obama urged me to grit my teeth and lay off Bernie as much as I could. I felt like I was in a straitjacket. Pretty blunt words from her, and at least in part blaming Bernie Sanders for the problems she had eventually against Donald Trump.
Yeah, blunt words, and it may not be a popular thing to say, but I think she's right that he was one of a number of reasons why she lost. There were a lot of sort of self-inflicted reasons, but one of the things that Sanders did in that campaign, for better or worse, was convince some Democrats that whatever had happened during the Obama years, a 38% drop in unemployment, getting rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, Obamacare, et cetera, wasn't good enough, that they weren't getting anything out of their party, and that they should go a different way. It didn't work out for Democrats.
Well, even more so, Bernie Sanders set up the crooked Hillary image, through talking about the speeches to Goldman Sachs, talking about how she was in the pocket of Wall Street. That, I think, was used to devastating effect by
and also
by
forcing her
Trump.
hand on TPP as well.
Right, but let's just play this out. If she had hit back at him on all of this stuff, Bernie Sanders did not raise her emails. Remember, he was sick of her damn emails, right? So he didn't raise her emails, and he would have if she had hit him back, if she had hit him harder on a bunch of stuff. I remember by the time your debate in Brooklyn occurred, they had the gloves pretty well off, and Goldman Sachs came up, the speeches to Goldman Sachs, et cetera. But if she had started hitting back at him, they would have just handed the Republicans more fodder.
And Trump might have won the election in that case.
Trump might have won the election. No, but they would have. So I don't think she was necessarily getting bad advice. I'm not so sure that she couldn't have thread the needle a little bit differently to kind of get at him to a certain degree without alienating his supporters.
Her aides basically thought she had the Democratic nomination locked up, and why get into a fight like this?
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And as Gloria is saying, it's probably good advice to not start that fight when they were looking ahead to the general. That being said, though, I think she was, and look, let's be clear, Senator Sanders was playing tough and playing fair, but he did soften her up for the general election.
You agree?
Absolutely, absolutely, and especially about the idea of personal corruption, the idea that there was something about her that was untrustworthy, which was something that Bernie Sanders made very clear, and Donald Trump certainly
but he didn't
made
need Bernie for that.
Well,
he already had that.
And you're right, that Bernie did not raise the emails, which certainly Trump did.
We will continue this.
That was one of the saddest conversations I've ever seen. What do you want? What do you want? Did you want a primary where Bernie Sanders wasn't allowed to make an argument against his opponent? Is that what you wanted? So in other words, you wanted Bernie to put on kid gloves and go easy on Hillary Clinton. And then they say, well, look, Bernie Sanders, he's set up the crooked Hillary image. Counterpoint, Hillary Clinton set up the crooked Hillary image by being crooked. So, look, I didn't make this up. I didn't force her to take over $600,000 from Goldman Sachs to give a few speeches. I didn't force her to keep accepting money from Wall Street and big banks and big pharma and health insurance companies. I didn't do that. Nobody else did that. Hillary Clinton did that. I didn't tell the Clintons to collectively take over $3 billion in donations over their entire career. I didn't do that. Nobody else. Bernie Sanders didn't do that. Bernie didn't make her take a tremendous amount of money from big money interests and giant multinational corporations. She decided to do that. So she needs to accept responsibility for her own actions and understand that the criticism from the left against Hillary Clinton, 100% legitimate and based on the issues. Now, Hillary loves to say, well, I asked Bernie, hey, name an issue where I changed the vote for money, and he couldn't name it. There are countless answers to that question. For example, the bankruptcy bill. So there's a bill that effectively biased the bankruptcy laws in favor of corporations against regular people. She used to be against it, then she accepted money from giant multinational corporations, and then she flipped and was for it. She was in favor of helping out the corporations and biasing the bankruptcy laws in their favor. She used to be in favor of single payer. She used to be in favor of single payer. And then, wow, lo and behold, look at that. She took a tremendous amount of money from private health insurance companies, and now she's against it and says it's a pipe dream and it'll never happen. So the fact that that's a total bluff on Hillary's part. You can't name an issue where I took money and changed my position. Actually, we can name like 37 different issues, but nice attempt at a bluff. You can't name it. Actually, we just named 2 of them and we can go on and on. But, fuck, you caught me. Exactly. We fucking caught you. So you built that. You own it. Crooked Hillary, that image stuck because it is accurate. Jeez. And then, so there's also an inherent contradiction. David Sirota pointed this out on Twitter, and I had the light bulb moment when I read it. Notice Hillary argues 2 things at the exact same time. And you see this throughout her book. It's a contradiction over and over. You see this throughout her public comments whenever she talks about Bernie Sanders. She argues that, look, his plans are naive, basically. Pie in the sky, pipe dream, far left ideas. They're naive, and the numbers don't add up. That's another one she loves to use. The numbers don't add up. What are we going to do? Really expensive to do all this stuff. Where are we going to get the money from? Look, I'm just being realistic about it. Single payer, not going to happen because it costs a lot of money. Well, she doesn't tell you that, for example, single payer costs $32 trillion, right? Well, guess what? If you don't do single payer, the system costs over $40 trillion. So you actually net save trillions and trillions of dollars. But they don't tell you that. She doesn't tell you that. Now, I don't know if that's because she doesn't know or she's trying to mislead you, but that's one of her arguments is plans don't add up. He's naive. These are all pie in the sky, unicorn, fairy dust, pipe dream, far left ideas. So she argues that, and then in the next breath she'll argue, I don't know why he didn't think I wasn't progressive enough. Me and him agree on almost everything. What? You have to pick one. You have to either say he's pie in the sky lefty, it's naive, we're never going to get this stuff, or me and him agree on almost everything. She tries to have it both ways. She tries to have it both ways because she doesn't have a fucking argument. So you just throw mud against the wall and hope something sticks. I agree with him on everything. Why are you attacking me, progressive? Stop. I agree with the guy on fucking everything, so I don't know why you're telling me I'm not progressive enough. Anyway, like I was saying, his plans are totally naive and unrealistic, and the numbers don't add up, and we're never going to get it, so he needs to stop pushing those plans that I totally agree with. You're so stupid and sad. Her whole book is just whining about how victimized she is. You're not a fucking victim. You're not even close. You are an elite establishment corporatist insider who felt entitled to the presidency. And that's one of the many reasons you lost. And then I love how one of the people brings up, he pushed her hand on TPP. And she should be thanking him for that. If anything, she should have responded by being even more anti-TPP. She tepidly came out against it. Well, guess what? When you pushed it fucking 45 times, literally, well, then that you saying, I guess I'm against it, is not very convincing to people. If you had responded to Bernie more forcefully and saying, no, I'm seriously against it, and you went and you stumped in the Rust Belt, and you did rallies where you railed against outsourcing deals like TPP, maybe you would have fucking won. So in other words, Bernie pushed you to become a stronger candidate. He pushed you to be against TPP. But you needed to really be against it and to rally hard on that issue. And maybe you would have won if you ran more than 25% ads based on policy. That's what Hillary did. Only 25% of her ads were based on policy. in the general against Donald Trump. She's like, I can't believe I lost. Well, maybe if you followed Bernie's example when he keeps talking about the issues and, he's pushing you to be anti-TPP, you would have been served better if you went further down that path and said, no, seriously, I'm against TPP and I'm going to rally on that issue. And man, what a mistake it was for fucking NAFTA. What a horrible thing it was that my husband signed that. But she couldn't bring herself to do it. The best you get from Hillary Clinton is, I guess I was wrong on Iraq. I guess I was wrong on TPP. Very tepid, mealy-mouthed, like, I don't really believe this, but I'll say it because I think that's what you want to hear. That's the best you get. So she should be thanking Bernie, if anything, because Bernie forced her to become a better candidate. The idea that, she ran too far left and that's why she lost. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. When you look at the polling numbers, the American people agree with populist left ideas. She was spitting in the eye of populist left ideas and saying, no, baby steps, incremental steps in a slightly more progressive direction, but really the status quo and corporatism is the answer. Oh, man. And then the final point I want to make here is another fundamental contradiction. So Hillary and all of her supporters, what was the main argument that they used against Bernie Sanders in the primary? They said, oh my goodness, you guys don't get it. Bernie Sanders, sure, you like him. We like him too. But let's face facts. He's like a 312-year-old dude. Okay? He's not a traditional candidate politician. He's so easy to attack and beat in a general election. The Republicans will eat him up. He's just so easy to steamroll in a general election. The opposition research they can do on Bernie, where they go back to the 1970s when he said a kind word or two about Fidel Castro. Oh my God. They will eat this guy alive. He's too weak a general election candidate. That's why you have to pick Hillary. They argue that, and then what happens? Every claim they made against Bernie, saying, hey, this is what happens if you run Bernie in a general, is exactly what happened against Hillary. Hillary lost because she was so incredibly easy to attack and beat. That's why she lost. Her record is full of contradictions. It's full of hurting the middle class and regular people. She is the status quo. She is the establishment. She is an elitist. She did run an entitled campaign, didn't focus on policy, ran on platitudes and cliches. It was so easy to go to her record and hit her over the head with it. So Hillary and her supporters said, you can't run Bernie, he's so easy to attack and beat in the general. Then Hillary in the general was so easy to attack and beat. But they still turn around and blame Bernie. Isn't that amazing? So apparently, if Bernie had lost in the general and he was so easy to attack and beat, it would have been Bernie's fault. But Hillary lost in the general because she was so easy to attack and beat, but it's still Bernie's fault. Well, isn't that fucking convenient? So it's a non-falsifiable claim. No matter what happens, it's Bernie's fault. Funny how that works, right? So if Bernie lost in the general, hey, he was easy to attack and beat, it's his fault. Hillary lost, blame Bernie. What the fuck? No, she lost because she was so fucking easy to attack and beat, and everybody who's a Bernie supporter warned you about it. We said he's the stronger candidate, not the weaker candidate. You didn't fucking listen, and that's why hashtag Bernie would have won was such a big thing. Because every single goddamn poll that had Bernie versus Trump, Bernie beat him in a landslide. Whereas the polls, Hillary versus Trump, they had Hillary winning by like a percentage point or two as we move closer to the election. And guess what? Those polls were right. Hillary won the popular vote by a little bit, but Trump won the Electoral College. With Bernie would have won both. So, man, you know what's happening, right, guys? Look, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here. Is that the saying? Bringer of bad news, bearer of bad news, whatever. You know what I'm saying. I think she's setting up a 2020 run now. I think that's what she's doing. And she would rather bury, brush off, downplay, dismiss everybody on the left who doesn't like her and disagrees with her than genuinely change her positions to popular ones to try to get elected. So in other words, this is classic Hillary Clinton. My detractors don't count. People who disagree with me, they don't count. You know, they're part of a Russian troll army, or they're racist, or they're sexist, or they're against the Dem Party and they're trying to take down the Democratic Party and not rebuild it in a more productive way, but they just want to take it down because they're nefarious. They're bad people. So this is Hillary Clinton 101. That's why she endorsed Peter Dow's bullshit Verrit social media platform, which is getting absolutely obliterated and will be bankrupt in 17 minutes, okay? That's why. Because she agrees with Peter Dow's version of events and how things went down. Everybody who's against Hillary is a bad person, okay? And instead of reforming our ideas to become more popular, to do things that affect the people in the right way, we need to cement the narrative, solidify the narrative that I was right all along. Here's my boatload of excuses as to why I lost. I'm not going to try to get more voters on my side. I'm going to shame them. And I'm going to say, you know, you're the problem. Fall in line. So they don't count. My detractors don't count. So, in other words, I will try to berate my way to the presidency again, solidify the narrative that I'm the ultimate victim, and then allow the country to do the right thing and lift me up as the rightful president of the United States. There's no other reason for it to be this public. It's happening over and over and over. A new book, a new PAC, continuing to make public appearances, continuing to rehash the primary, because she wants to solidify the argument to then the next time around go, well, now it's time, right? Now you guys want me to run, right? I mean, we already established that the Bernie bros are the problem and that everybody to the left of me needs to fall the fucking line. We've already established that, right? So now I'm going to run. Look out, son. She will drag down the Democratic Party and the country because she's that entitled and that narcissistic.